Invincible is my favorite superhero comic ever. Like most, I grew up with Marvel and DC characters and wasn't very aware of the fact that there were other superhero comics outside of these companies, up until 2021. Yes, that's very late, I'm aware. But I found this out when the first season of Invincible came out. Like many, it hooked me instantly, and when I found out that the next season was going to take 2 years to drop, I physically couldn't wait that long, and decided to read the comic right after the finale dropped, and it was amazing. Everything I thought I knew about superheroes were challenged, questioned, or parodied in extremely clever ways, and I loved nearly every single page of that comic, because it was truly unpredictable and had one of the strongest casts of characters I've ever seen in a long-form story. I've made a couple videos on my favourite side characters in Invincible before, and whilst Dinosaurus is still my GOAT, the subject that I'm going to cover in this video is honestly one of the most complicated yet genius characters I've ever seen in comics. And because Invincible Season 4 will allegedly take on a semi-original story, taking a break from adapting the comic's plot bar for bar, I once again refuse to wait 2 to 3 years to talk about this character. Assuming you've seen the show or read the comic, you already know who Rex, or more commonly, Robot, is. But the truth is, the show has barely scratched the surface on this man. Although Season 1 had quite an interesting side plot for him, revealing some backstory on who and what he is, Rex ends up becoming one of the most important characters in the Invincible universe, to the point where he becomes the most powerful individual on Earth. And this happens through an insane series of unfortunate events that will change your perception on everything in this story. I would recommend you either read the comic first or just wait a few years until you watch this video, just keep in your watch later or something. Because to say there are huge spoilers in this video would be a massive understatement. But with that being said, this is how Robot not only defeated the program, but takes over the world.
20 years later, where has the time gone? 9 nigga dating has the problems of his own. And 9 nigga grown and the tables turned around.
Robot was first introduced to us during Mark's very first night out using his powers. While fighting the Mauler twins, a B-tier group of superheroes, the Teen Team, shows up, with their leader, Robot. For the first few issues, all we know about Robot is that he is a robot. He doesn't show any signs of feeling or emotion for his first few appearances, which works well for everybody as he tends to be the most neutral and trustworthy character for a while. However, due to his mechanical nature, he can come off pretty dry and can be very bleak. Mark hangs around with the Teen Team pretty frequently for the first few issues, and they even fight together against an interdimensional alien invasion led by the Flaxians. However, after Omni-Man slimes out the Guardians of the Globe, Earth's mightiest superhero team, coincidentally, the Teen Team also begin to fall apart, mainly due to drama between Rexplode, Atom Eve, and Duplicate after a cheating scandal. Whilst this all goes down, Eve leaves the team, Rex is pretty full of himself, and Robot is kinda just there in the back working on his own experiments. But he hasn't done anything yet to break anybody's trust, so nobody really questions him or what he's doing. After the Guardians are found dead, the head of the Global Defense Agency, Cecil Stedman, hires Robot to lead and form the new Guardians of the Globe team. He holds tryouts and forms a new team, including former Teen Teamers Rexplode and Duplicate, an OG Guardians member Black Samson, and new members Shrinking Ray and Monster Girl. He wanted Eve and Invincible on the team as well, but Atom Eve declines due to her issues with Rex and a small identity crisis she has going on. Meanwhile, Mark decides to continue working solo and take guidance from his father, who still hadn't been revealed yet as the Guardian's killer. Although Robot already had established relationships with Kate and Rex, Monster Girl totally becomes the most important one in Robot's story, because without his interest in her, he might not have finally made the decision to start a new life. Eventually, we find out that Robot isn't actually a robot, but an extremely deformed genius named Rudolph Connors. Inspired by Monster Girl's backstory of how her powers are a curse that causes her to age backwards whenever she uses them, it gave Rudy the push to try change not only his own life for the better, but hers as well. So in secret, Rudy worked on ways to cure both their curses of being stuck in the bodies they never wanted or asked to be in. To do this, Rudy gets assistance from the Mauler twins, whom he blackmails into helping him, and uses Rexplode's DNA to create a clone which will give him the exact same memories and levels of intelligence as his original deformed self. And the Maulers are pretty much the best process there is when it comes to doing this. The cloning process ends up being successful, but the earliest of red flags we see from Rudy is that when he clones his new body, he decides to be reborn at the age of 13 years old.
What's wrong with him?
Rudy starts to fall in love with Monster Girl after learning about her condition, and by the same time she's introduced to the series, she's technically in her late 20s, but her body ages backwards, making her have the appearance of a young teenager. Although there aren't many hints that Rudy is attracted to her current body, it's still really concerning and a factor that we shouldn't easily overlook. And Rudy cloning himself to match her age shows that he clearly does want to pursue her. It's not addressed much in the comic or the show, except for when people get uncomfortable around Monster Girl when she shows signs of attraction to other adults. But Rudy somehow gets a pass from everybody, because they're more shocked at the fact that he's not actually a robot, but a person who's been hiding for so many years. After Robot reintroduced himself to the Guardians, he stays the leader, but it takes a little bit of time for him to regain their trust. That isn't really at the top of his priorities at the moment, as he's also very focused on trying to help Monster Girl with her condition. But through his tenure leading the Guardians, the team showed a clear drop in quality compared to the previous one, even though we barely saw them in action. During the releases of Season 2 and 3, one of the top memes was how useless the Guardians of the Globe were, and after the resurrection of the Immortal, one of the Guardians' original members, he rejoins the team and eventually takes over as leader due to Rudy's inability to deliver. We also get to see our first real clash between Rudy and Cecil, after Mark gets attacked by Cecil in the GDA. He does show that his loyalties lie with his friends such as Invincible, who's proven to be one of Rudy's closer allies, and he's able to help remove a torture device that Cecil had placed in Mark's ear. Tension does rise between the GDA and the heroes for a short while, but overall, they stay to work with Cecil, and even Mark learns to put aside their issues in the near future. After getting his body, we do see Rudy embrace more of his human nature. He gets a bit of an ego, he can get quite emotional, and many things are shown to bother and frustrate him. He does eventually date Amanda, even though they get off to quite a rocky start. But whilst you think this is where Rudy starts to feel what it's like to be an actual human, it really happens after a life-changing tragedy. If you've seen Invincible Season 3, then I'm sure that the Invincible War and the death of Rexplode are still somewhat fresh in your memory. Of course, Rudy used Rex's DNA to create the clone, so in certain ways, he's like Rex's little brother, and he will grow up to be a spitting image of him. But we need to remember that Rex and Rudy had been allies for several years, back during the Teen Team days, which means that he was there to watch Rex grow and change his life around. Rex's sacrifice left all the Guardians in a terrible state of grief, but other than Eve, Rudy was truly broken by this event, even causing him to change his first name to Rex, honoring the memory of his friend. Not too long after the war, Conquest, one of Viltrum's best warriors, came to see if Invincible had enslaved Earth yet, and when he saw he hadn't, he happily beat the living hell out of Mark, but he ended up narrowly losing to Mark and Atom Eve's combined attempts to stop him. After this event, Mark does go through a small phase of killing his villains without hesitation, which seems to cause a small rift between him and Rex. Not that Rex completely condemns his actions, but more that he's concerned about Mark being so willing to kill with the level of power he already has. But before he can really find a way to get on the same page with Mark, in another battle with the Flaxians, him and Monster Girl vanish. These green schmucks are the Flaxians, interdimensional aliens who just won't stop invading Earth. They attack the planet more times than I can remember because time in their dimension moves significantly faster than on Earth, meaning that after a defeat, generations pass before their next attempt. After a few attempts, Rex decides to follow them back into their world to stop them, and Monster Girl goes along with him. But they end up being stuck there for almost a year, meaning for them, years had passed before returning to Earth. Although they tell everyone on Earth that they had been in their dimension for around 12 years, which would match up with how they've aged since they returned, the time in the Flaxian dimension moves so slowly that they had lived there for 700 years, meaning that Rex and Amanda weren't stuck there the whole time, but they'd made a choice to stay. While in their dimension, we learn that the Flaxians are a people with a deep tribal conflict. They still condone slavery and gladiator battles, making Earth look like a utopia in comparison, which it definitely isn't. But it takes about 20 years of captivity for Rex and Amanda to build up a big group to start a revolution with an underworld of freedom fighters, with the end goal to destroy the Flaxian Empire and end its yearning for interdimensional dominance, to try and change Flaxia for the better. They make great waves and start a cult community, even networking with the Zaxel royal family, one of Flaxia's most powerful tribes. The war lasts for centuries, and Rex and Amanda's bodies barely age, allowing for them to adjust better to their surroundings and take more time and effort in their attempts. However, whilst Rex can learn the language and culture fluently, Amanda struggles a lot more and can't learn the language due to their different levels of intelligence, making this new life of longevity and alienation a lot more difficult for her. However, their love for each other grew, and at a time, they were living the happiest lives they possibly could, and they seemingly became a perfect duo of a calculating tactician and a muscle who also shared fairness fairness and compassion. Once the war concluded, Rex was appointed ruler of Flaxia, as it made the most sense at the time given all his previous success. But as the centuries continued, Rex slowly went from a liberator to a radical dictator. He imposes laws that restrict the rights of the descendants from the Zaxel family due to the actions of their previous generations, causing a major rift between him and Amanda due to how inhumane his laws were. That was only one of several reasons why the two drifted apart, and eventually, the Zaxels overthrow Rex with the aid of Amanda, which leads to him getting imprisoned for 100 years, until Amanda breaks him free when the Zaxels prepare to go back to the old way of interdimensional imperialism. Although Rex was deeply hurt by her betrayal, in a letter he wrote to Amanda, he does admit that he had lost his way, and even says that he forgives her for betraying him. Once free, it takes about a week to stop the Zaxels from attacking another dimension, as they literally spent centuries stopping this exact thing from happening previously. They reconcile, but the damage had already been done, and to only make matters worse, Amanda admitted to cheating on Rex with the heiress to the Zaxel Empire. With that, Rex had realized that there was nothing left for them in Flaxia. And finally, after living two of the longest human lives of all time, they decided to go back home. When Rex and Amanda return, other than their obvious physical changes, their attitudes are rather different as well. Whilst they were a pretty magnetic pair before they left, they returned with a cold attitude towards each other, with Rex in particular being more isolated and unhappy. Before Flaxia, Rex made efforts to tap into his human nature, whether it was with constant socialization with his peers, pursuing his relationship with Amanda, or more notably, piloting his robot drones manually, and exposing himself to physical danger like others. In contrast to now, where he pretty much always stays in a dark room remotely, either playing video games or working with the Guardians over Zoom like Wade from Kim Possible. This regression isn't subtle, and immediately we see there's something different about Rex now, and due to the Flaxia law being held back from us for several issues after he and Amanda returned, we were left to wonder what went down over there. Whilst slowly filling in the gaps of knowledge behind what happened in Flaxia, we get to dive deeper into Rex. Pause. We see his current state of mind and his broken relationship with Amanda. Whenever they're not naturally at a distance from each other, they clash and bicker to violent extremes, causing everybody to question what the hell happened in Flaxia. Although he hides away during pretty much every major event that takes place after the return home, including what seemed to be the death of Invincible during the Dinosaurus saga, which I made an amazing video on. If you don't watch it right now, I will cry myself to sleep. The only time Rex leaves his little space station is when the Flaxians return to conquer Earth. Of course, Rex and Amanda can't believe that this is happening, as they spent nearly a millennium trying to rebuild the Flaxians' way of life from the ground up. In their time there were big hiccups, of course, but Rex had appointed a successor who he was sure would continue their legacy. But it turns out that Amanda's betrayal ran deeper than he knew. When Amanda had slept with Zol, one of the Zaxel twin rulers, she wasn't told that during their time together, they had conceived a child, Monarchs Zaxel, who grew up a hybrid of Flaxian and monster, and the one to lead the next crusade and to take back the throne of Flaxia, coming back not only to continue the Zaxel conquest, but to get revenge on Robots and Monster Girl, who is technically his biological father. The battle takes place in London, which is my home city, big up.
You're a donut!
And many civilians are injured, killed, and Monster Girl almost dies, where in a moment of vulnerability, Rex truly opens up to her after what could have been decades or even a century. After stopping the invasion, we get another flashback as Amanda tries to talk to Monarchs, where it's revealed to us that Rex was aware of Monarchs' conception and that one of his final orders in Flaxia was for the entire Zaxel bloodline to be eradicated, including Monarchs, which makes the events taking place in the current timeline feel way more strange and eerie, as Rex acts oblivious to Monarchs' existence upon his arrival, and even uses that as a way for him and Amanda to get back together, leaving us to ask why he would do this, and what he's plotting next.
For you to subscribe, so could you, please? I don't get why you don't have a YouTube account or something? Like, come on. Actually, no, I don't. Wait, what? No, I'll just go on YouTube, just go and Google it, and I'll see what I want to watch for the day, and I'll log off. It's actually quite peaceful, no notifications or nothing.
Hi there. Now, do you want that experience to happen to you too? I did not think so. So, with that being said, you need to subscribe to Taffi's World, and I'll see you next time. Enjoy the rest of the video. After a few issues of Mark suffering from Murphy's Law, Robot reveals to him that Angstrom Levy is still alive and kicking in another dimension. Given that Levy is arguably Mark's biggest hater, Mark being shaken up by all the things that have been going on in his life recently, and the threat that Levy would pose against Mark, Eve, and his unborn child, it takes zero convincing for Mark to agree to go with Robot to find and kill Levy, to end the possibility of another Invincible War level attack. After a very heated argument between Mark and Eve, Robot and Mark travel to the other dimension, where Mohawk Mark rules Earth and the Viltrum Empire. Although they once were enemies, Invincible and Mohawk aren't at odds for once, as they both were done dirty by Angstrom and don't pose threats to each other. Mohawk takes Invincible and Robot to a lab, where he reveals that he has been keeping Angstrom in a torture device, while trying to sample his interdimensional abilities to expand his empire to an interdimensional level. While Mark practically hates Angstrom, he doesn't want to see him tortured, he just wants him gone for good. But before he can even process what he's seen, Mark gets hit with a shrill sound in his ear, identical to the one that Cecil used against him when they first fell out. And whilst he lies on the ground in pain, Robot murders Mohawk, decapitates Angstrom, and reveals that whilst he wasn't lying about coming to kill Angstrom, his true intention was to leave Mark on this Earth to make sure all threats posed against Robot's plans would be cut out of the equation completely. Robot has realized that their world could be so much better than what it is, but there's nobody with the knowledge, intelligence, or experience to fix things, so only he can do it. He ignores all of Mark's cries to stop and let them talk it out, because with Robot there are no plan Bs, so he can't take any chances. Although he could have killed Mark then and there, he decides to strand him in this alternate Earth, as he still sees Mark as a friend, but knows he wouldn't approve of what he needs to do. And plus, Mark could help fix this Earth. And with that, Robot leaves Mark in the lab, surrounded by the corpses of his enemies, as the Viltrumites rush to see what's going on. It takes a few months of Mark pretending to be Mohawk and gathering allies to get back home, but even though he does get back and leaves Mohawk's Earth in a pretty good state, Robot still has 700 years of experience in collapsing governments and negotiation, whereas all Mark has is brute strength and rage. Mark goes to Cecil to warn him of Robot's plan, but before they can do anything, Robot slits Cecil's throat and crushes his skull under his heel, making sure there is no way to revive him. Mark crushes his drone, but Robot isn't a fool, and knows that even if Mark can overcome the physical pain of this weakness, there is a weakness that he can't overcome, and he requests that they meet back at Mark's house. Mark rushes in, where he finds Robot in a new suit of armor, whilst Eve sits in complete confusion. Mark tells her to run, literally showing her Cecil's blood on his costume, but Robot clamps her leg, forcing her to stay, and tears it straight off her body, then blows up their house. Mark rushes her to his father's base on the moon to help her, as not only is she bleeding out, she's 9 months pregnant with their child. As Mark is occupied, Robot's army of drones keep the same energy and kill more of his former allies. They tear the flesh and organs off of Shapesmith. They kill Black Samson, who seemingly was enjoying his day giving somebody a trim, and they nearly kill the Immortal and Duplicate. And with the assistance of Bulletproof, he arrests all heroes who tried to hide and form a secret alliance. As this goes down, Robot calls in Amanda to his space station and explains to her his ideas and his plans of repeating what they did in Flaxia, but trying to make Earth a better place. They genuinely did improve Flaxia from where it once was, but of course they took over by force. Amanda's extremely skeptical hearing his plan, but after Best Tiger tries to kill Robot, she realizes that he's already started his plan. She remembers her first encounter with Monarchs, how he called Rex a monster. Yet when she says this to him, he's somewhat surprised that she won't hear him out, but as the drones pile down on her and restrain her, he gets close and tells her to remember that she betrayed him first. Then with tears in his eyes, he has his drones throw her out of the space station, letting her suffocate in space. The Viltrumites find her body and take her back to the base to heal her, and Robot takes a trip to the moon to go and discuss terms with Omni-Man. He explains his plan isn't about him, but the safety of the whole world. He doesn't want to be recognized as the leader of the world, and he isn't doing this for self-benefit, but because he is the only one capable of succeeding and protecting the planet. But he knows that he can't have anything in the way to prevent it, so he proposes that he will leave the Viltrumites out of this entirely, as long as they trust him to do the right thing. Of course, Mark comes in right in the middle of the party, and due to his obvious personal stakes he has in this situation, he's immediately on smoke. But Nolan tells Mark to stand down and take a wider look at the situation, rather than only thinking about his point of view. Mark's heartbroken to hear that his father won't help him take down Robot, and decides to go solo, and he finds Robot and finally has a face-to-face discussion with him. But for once, Robot isn't here to just throw hands or rip legs off of people. He explains that what's done has been done, and that the president has already co-signed with the new initiative. To Robot, Mark isn't looking at the bigger picture, that the future will be brighter, and he pleads with him as he doesn't want to kill him, but only to make the world safer for everybody, which includes Mark, Eve, and their new daughter. And once Mark finally accepts what's happened, Robot arrests all those who opposed him and finally gets a moment alone, where he reflects on his life before Flaxia. He remembers the first time he met Mark, the first time he got to introduce himself to Amanda in his brand new body, and the day he changed his name to Rex, how he vowed to honor his friend who laid his life down for everybody. Then his head falls into his hands, as Robot succeeded in his plan to start this new world order, but he didn't win.
To save or honor even a single life? Rex would tell me to shut up and get to the point, but I know that's what he believed. I am changing my name from Rudy to Rex. I only hope that I can live up to his courage and sacrifice.
Shortly after Robot takes over the GDA, there are very apparent and clear signs that the world does improve, not just becoming safer, but also very beneficial to the public and their daily lives. State colleges have been made free, the healthcare system has been changed to allow for free universal aid for everybody, all troops have been pulled from wars, with Robot's drones taking their place to keep them from harm's way, and street crime and superpowered incidents have dropped to an all-time low, with genuine rehabilitation programs being established for offenders. The world has improved and is much more peaceful than it once was. But of course, Mark and Eve struggled to cope with it all, as Robot still took extreme and painful measures to achieve this. And to make things worse for them, Robot even attended most of the funerals of the people that he killed in cold blood, as if he weren't the one who stabbed them in the back. So after some consideration, Mark and Eve leave Earth to go and start a new life on Telescria, the planet that Alan the Alien leads. Due to this, we don't see much of Robot's reign on Earth up until the end of the series, where Mark finally defeats Thrag and his half-breed army of Viltrumites. The defeat isn't all sunshine and rainbows, even though the final battle did take place on the surface of the sun, as Mark lost his father to the battle with Thrag, meaning he is to inherit the Viltrum Empire, even though
I don't want it.
But once again, before getting to process this major shift in his life, Robot tweaks and creates a giant blockade of his drones shielding the Earth. Mark goes to confront him, but Robot ain't here to discuss, as he knows what's going down. Now that Mark has gained an army of nearly 50 full-blood Viltrumites, and potentially the entire fleet of Thrag's half-blood Viltrumite children, Robot's cooked. Mark now has the means to dethrone him and end the NWO, which Robot is not standing for. So before anything happens, he kidnaps the partners and children of the Viltrumites that were hiding on Earth, and essentially blackmails Mark's army to fight against him for the sake of their families. But through Robot's desperation to maintain control, he leaves his defense pretty sloppy, allowing for Mark to make his way to Earth and find the Immortal and Duplicate, where they gather the other anti-robot heroes who were in hiding so they can rescue the families of the Viltrumites. Meanwhile, Eve enlists the help of Thrag's children. A massive battle breaks out on the lawn of the Pentagon, but Mark locates Robot's manually piloted drone and flies him off the planet to talk. Due to them being in space, Robot's control over the drones goes out of range, and the battle is as good as over. Robot gets one final chance to try and prove to Mark that his methods did lead to Earth being the most peaceful place it's ever been in a very long time. But it's still clear that Robot himself isn't fit to be in control, as he does stuff like this, backstabbing, killing and kidnapping people, ruining lives, all because Robot says it will lead to the best outcome, which isn't fair. He claims to care, he claims to be human, but his actions show that he isn't. He acts like an algorithm, a soulless machine, which leads to Mark making a very difficult decision, but one that will ultimately suit the world best. Later, Mark asks the Immortal to take Robot's place in maintaining the peace on Earth. as he's also lived one of the longest lives, and whilst he can be an asshole, Kate has changed him for the better, and he ultimately is trustworthy. Immortal is skeptical and doesn't know if he's worthy of such an important position, similarly to Mark with the Viltrum Empire, which is a good sign and shows his humility, but Mark also reveals to him that he won't have to do it all alone. They enter a room in the Pentagon where Robot's brain has been isolated in a tank, so all his ideas can be accessed and Immortal can be guided in keeping the world safe, while all hostile, selfish, and evil thoughts have been blocked and filtered out, which will help prevent the future of an evil Immortal ruling the Earth in a dictatorship, but also stopping Robot from doing the same thing. And Robot's brain even says that he thinks things are better this way. As the series wraps up, Mark takes lead as Emperor of the Viltrumites, leaving Earth to turn what once was the lie his father told him about his people so long ago into truth, serving, helping, and protecting the universe. But the last we see of Robot is a scene we see with Amanda and the Immortal. As Immortal leaves to attend to his duties, when Amanda tries to go, Robot calls out to her and pleads with her to stay, telling her that he is extremely lonely. But instead of pitying him, Amanda holds him accountable for the position he's in, telling him that although he may tell himself that he's some sort of martyr by sacrificing his humanity and putting himself in a tube like he once was before, this is the world that he had wanted, so he should live with it. Robot, or Rex, lived one of the longest lives in the entire Invincible story, which led him to end up sharing common traits with the Viltrumites, rather than his own people.
My love goes today, hopefully not on that plane.
He ruthlessly killed multiple people he once called allies. He tortured his own friends. He secretly took control of the Earth and grew distant and cold to the love that once drove him to rejoin humanity.
Oh, what a lovely face. Keenan Thompson plays video games.
But although he shed blood and killed relationships during his conquest, the planet indeed became a safer place. But the question isn't if he was right.
Ow! What the hell?
Oh, I'm sorry. I must have pinched a nerve. I forget how soft humans are.
But if it was all worth it.
Be happy. Change the world. Experience everything we never could.
Together we watched snakes on a plane. She flew in cold, he slithered away. I wonder where my love goes today. Hopefully not on that plane. I love and miss her so much now. My plane is tumbling, crashing down. It wasn't Sam Jackson who shot my hope out of my heart. These feelings go.
To honor my friend and everything he meant to me, I am changing my name from Rudy to Rex.
Watching a movie with her sounds nice. I wish that's what I was doing tonight. I wish that's what I was doing tonight. I wish that's what I was doing tonight.